Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our live with VA Claims Insider. I am Coach Dr. Adam Castro, and here I have with me Coach Mark Mitchell.
What's going on, insiders? Welcome to today's class or Facebook Live. Give it a little bit for everyone to trickle in here. We're going to be going over the VA disability calculator.
That's right. And I know that a lot of veterans get stuck. They get very confused with that process. As Coach Mark mentioned, that I know a lot of you folks might be getting settled in. If you could just sound off in the chat, say where you're from, tell us your branch of service, say a little bit about you, just so we can, say hello and stay engaged with you all and interact with you.
I'll kick it off, man. I'm Coach Mark, and I'm an Air Force vet. See how many Air Force guys we got trickling in.
And I served in the Navy from 2002 to 2010. Did over 8 years, 3 deployments at sea, 2 different ships. Did one individual. Oh, there's Navy as well. All right. Go Navy.
From Austin, Texas, Adam, Marine Corps.
All right, Austin.
Another Navy.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Out of California, too. Army from Puerto Rico. More Navy. Navy's in the house today, huh? Welcome, Ray. Welcome, James. Man, I don't think we have one Air Force yet. Navy. Right on, guys. Okay, Army's catching
No,
up.
sir, go Army. That was the response back to me. That's awesome.
Having faith. Still no Air Force, but we still got time.
Oceanside, California.
San Antonio. I spent a lot of time there. Welcome, Jeff. There we go. Welcome, Steve. We got one on the board.
Outstanding.
There we go. I think Navy takes the cake, but we got a couple Air Force in here.
I think Navy does.
All right, guys. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. We are going to be going over the VA disability calculator. Coach Adam, you want to talk a little bit about how confusing and how weird the VA math can be?
Absolutely. So I'll just give some scenarios real quick and go with some common ratings, and to just help, put that into perspective. When it comes to assigning a disability rating, and so let's take the scenario of somebody gets 50% on mental health and then maybe gets 10% for tinnitus. You have to imagine that a pie chart, that's the simplest way I can explain it. You take the highest rating, and typically that's your mental health rating. You see a lot of the average rating for mental health is 50 and 70%. So you would take that 50 or 70% of the pie, that would be shaded in, taken care of. And then you'd have the remaining left over. And then what happens is our disabilities get divided into the remaining pie. And so really it's fractions is what it is. And so if you had a 50% rating for PTSD and a 10% for tinnitus, 10 would go into that remaining 50 5 times. That person would have a raw score of 55. And so for VA math purposes, or VA compensation purposes, I should say, they round up. So you have to be 55, 65, 75 to round up to merit the next rating. And as we both know, a lot of veterans really get stuck and frustrated at the, as they climb higher, get closer to that 100% rating. A lot of times it's the 90%. And so what happens is that a lot of times is that 90, maybe they have a raw score of 85 or maybe just a little bit above that. And are having a hard time getting to that 100, because then it's like you need you might need a number of disabilities to hit that 100% mark, with a number of different disabilities, multiple disabilities. And I'm sure that we'll be able to play around a little bit with those numbers as we go forward and get some clarification on that. But that's where a lot of our veterans do get frustrated at, is where they get stuck at 90 trying to hit that 100. And sometimes, so it's really a good idea to understand how the VA math does what they do, the raw score, what your raw score is. Are you at 85, 87? Because you'll be compensated at 90. Anything 85 and above, you're gonna be 90, all the way up until you hit 95, and then they'll round up to 100. So it's not 90% plus another 10% makes you 100. No, it's their their way of looking at a whole person and then dividing up the remaining disability in that calculator. So for compensation purposes. So
yeah, 1 + 1 does not equal 2.
Correct. Yeah.
I will not forget the first time I figured out what VA math was, and I was like, it rounds down also, right? So if you're at 94% and you just need that last little bit to put you over that 95 to hit that 100, that's where that frustration comes into play. We do have a calendar here that we can kind of mess with and share the screen to show you guys some scenarios on how the calculator works. That way you guys can pull it up yourselves and kind of play with the numbers and see exactly what we're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, and so for a situation with somebody rated at 70%, and if they had a 10%, so you take 70% is shaded into the pie. There's 30% remaining. 10 goes into the remaining 30 3 times, so there's 73%. And so 10% for tinnitus wouldn't change the overall compensation when somebody's at 70% for mental health in a situation like that. It would help inch them towards the 80% goal, but it would keep them still at 70% for compensation purposes, because they would be 73%. And so they would not round up until the veteran would hit 75 or more. Then they would round up and compensate the veteran at 80% pay rate.
Yeah, it's so important to understand and know. Luckily, we have the calculator to do the math for us, so it eliminates the room for error. But yeah, it can help with the strategy side of the house, knowing, hey, if I go for this claim, or if I submit this condition, is it even going to put me over to the next rating? Or what criteria based on that 38 CFR, if we're not doctors, but if we can kind of self-check ourselves and we look at the CFR and we can say, okay, based on these symptoms, this is where I feel like I should fall under, we can use that calculator to play around and say, okay, this is what would be required in order to get me to whatever percentage it is that you feel like you should be rated at.
Right, because you could play with different scenarios to see what it would take for you to get over the hump. And that's some of the value that, we bring to the table as a company, as coaches, understanding the system that we're working up against, and the challenges that our veterans face every day with trying to get the rating that they deserve. So understanding the rules, regulations, just as Mark mentioned, about the 38 CFR, you can double check certain conditions, something that you might have, something that you might be diagnosed with, check the rating scale, and then go to the calculator with that and say, hey, if they were to compensate me at this rate, would I, what would this do for my rating? What would this do for my overall compensation? What potential does this rating have? How much of a difference will it make in the big picture of things?
Yeah, well said. And that's exactly why, we focus on high value claims, claims that are going to make the difference at hacking away at that disability rating. Let me know whenever you're ready, man. We'll pull this calculator up and we can start messing around and doing some scenarios.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that up if we can, if you're okay with that.
Yeah. All right. All right, guys. So if you guys go to our website, vaclaimsinsider.com, I'll actually take it from the beginning. In the little top right here, you're going to see a little drop down for veterans by veterans. You will go to the for veterans, and in that drop down, you've got the 2021 VA disability calculator right here, where you can select what's my rating, and it will pull up this bad boy. So this calendar does all the hard work for us. So Adam, throw me a scenario. We'll select the disability here. What do we want? We want mental health, migraines.
So you can do maybe mental health and migraines, or one at a time on that. Those would be common.
So the first thing you do is select the disability type or what the condition is. So in this case, we'll do PTSD. Second, you are going to select the percentage of whatever it is that you are rated for. So I believe you said 50% for our scenario. So
Right.
we've got PTSD rated at the 50% level. At the bottom here, when it comes to the dependents, you can mark it what's applicable for you. If you're married, have children, parent dependents, and that'll add your children to where you can add the number of children you have, 18 and over, under 18, super detailed here. That way it can break it down for you. But once you have your condition and that rating, you just hit the little add button. And to the right here, it'll pull up what your overall disability rating is, as well as the level of monthly compensation that you'll be receiving for that rating. So I think you said migraines. So you can see if we add migraines at 30%, 50 plus 30 would normally be 80, but with VA math, as you can see, that brings our overall rating to that 65%. That's that raw score that Coach Adam was talking about, where 65 will round up to that 70% compensation level, which you can see the amount at the top, current disability that it's rounded to, and then your raw score. You can also play with it and mess around and remove other conditions. So for instance, if you're claiming migraines and you think that you're at that 50% or you merit that 50% rating, but say it comes back and the VA decides that it's at that 30%, you can kind of mess and play around with the different conditions and what it would do. So you can kind of forecast and better prepare yourself if you're going for the next claim or the next round for whatever it is that you're claiming. But it's super detailed here. Go ahead, man.
Sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
It's really useful in terms of strategy, just as we discussed, so that you can see the path forward and see what it will do for the overall situation in the big picture. See if it will change your situation and how much value will it bring to changing and getting that increase that you deserve.
Yeah, I remember whenever I first started the journey as a client before I was a coach, I probably ran, every scenario in the book. I had like a list of everything that I knew I was going to come down the pipe to claim. And I kind of ran through the different scenarios just to play it out, just to see and just to play with it. It's just good knowledge to have. It, it can kind of help you understand that process, the rating schedule, inevitably you dive deeper into the 38 CFR. So without even realizing it, you're familiarizing yourself with the different conditions, the symptoms, the rating schedule, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And the rating schedule will, I mean, there's no guarantee somebody that can, you can hit maybe the max points on the rating schedule, but you can compare and contrast to see if your symptoms are similar. You don't always have to have all the symptoms in the 38 CFR to merit a certain rating schedule. Sometimes it's just some of them. So sometimes it's worth reaching for the stars. And if you got some of those symptoms at the higher rating level, then sometimes it would make sense and bring the most value for an individual to really, articulate their symptoms well to the rating criteria to help them bring the most value to get those points that they need to put on the board for the VA math.
Yeah. Not to be redundant, but exactly right. I remember I had filed one claim, and even though I was able to get service connected and rated, didn't do anything for my overall rating. That's when that frustration kicked in, the confusion kicked in of what was, at that point you would know, hey, let's even maybe add another condition or another claim with it if that one's not going to necessarily make a difference on the overall rating, to where it'll help you with that overall strategy. If you scroll down, and we can come back to this calculator here, but if you scroll down a little bit, it even gives you some good information and details. It takes a link to the 2022 VA disability pay rates, which we did get a large little increase there. Gives another explanation of the VA, the fuzzy math behind your VA disability rating. Everything that Coach Adam went through as far as the fractions. I think that's the easiest way. That pi reference is the easiest way to try and understand it. It even says here, clear as mud. But yeah, I just got some good info, some good details. That calculator, if you want to book a free strategy call and get connected with a coach, book your free, no obligation, free strategy session here. You can click the little link and it'll take you to where you can book that free strat session with the coach. Oh, I clicked the link. Yeah, we can open the floor for questions. I'm sure you guys have questions or some scenarios to throw at us. By all means, put it in the chat and we will. All right, Rick, example, I am 10% plus 10% plus 70%. Would that put me at 82? Currently rated at 80. All right, so the biggest one first, 70%. I'm just going to guess here, Rick, or just select some random stuff. So we'll do 70%. We'll give Rick a bad back. That's a common one. 10%. And then another 10% for that tinnitus on there. So, Rick, your raw score is actually 76%, which rounds up to that 80%. So your raw score is 76. So you can see how now you can utilize the calculator to see what else could be claimed to get you to that 85 to make that 90 jump. James Barrera. All right, I'm currently at 70% and I'm going to request more because I have been diagnosed with severe sleep apnea through the VA and they have sent me a CPAP machine. I read with the CPAP. I read with that CPAP is a 50% rating. So would that, along with my current 70%, take me to 100%? And if not, why? So the why is that VA fuzzy math. So we'll pull it up here. 70% sleep apnea at 50%. So that puts you at 90% with your raw score being 85, rounding it up. So as far as the why, Adam, I don't know if you want to try and explain it one more time with the fuzzy math, or we can even scroll down here.
Yeah, so what it is that the difference, you take your first largest number and then you have the difference of the pi that remains, and then the rest is divided up into fractions. And so this is why it gets much more complicated, the path forward. So as you climb closer to the 100% compensation rating, it will get it'll get kind of mucky and it'll get a little challenging. So if you're at 85 for raw score and you're compensated at 90 and you're trying to get to 100, you got a ways to go. And sometimes you have to have a number of service-connected disabilities to really cross over that bridge to hit that 100. But again, going back to the rating scale, going back to the CFR and looking at things like that, and look at certain conditions and what potential scores that they have, and then plugging them into this calculator, just as Mark did, will really help you kind of formulate the best path forward. And also working with a coach too as well can also give you a lot of insight as to the path forward, or getting the evidence that you need, because we have other resources that we can make referrals to help veterans get the evidence that they need to support their claims, to get them the rating that they deserve. So
right on. Also, we did not mention, so this is a free calculator, guys. You guys just have to go to the website, and then, like I said, it drop down, it pulls it up, and you guys can play away with it. There's also an app that you can download if you prefer to do it on your mobile device. I don't know if this will work good, but the app is a red box with a little equal sign, and it's probably not going to work too well. There's an app, and you can download the app, and it does the same exact thing, to where you can easily kind of just play with it and just type with it on your phone. I know most people do stuff through mobile versus computers nowadays. So it is a free app, and it has everything that you can use on the actual website for that calculator as well, guys.
all right, Jim, I have been rated at 80% on my initial claim, at 70% for mental health, and 10% for varicose veins. I have several more claims to make from Desert Storm, OIF, and others. Before I submit these others, I believe I may be able to get a higher rating for my initial claims for both mental and varicose veins. Should I seek to get an increase for my original claims before I submit my new claims? That's a good question. Go in, Jim.
Yeah, I'd say it depends on the evidence. If you've got supporting evidence, you've been going to your appointments, going to the doctor, doing everything you need to do, for the mental health, and it merits an increase, and you're looking at that CFR, and you know that, hey, these symptoms are definitely applicable to what I got going on in my life, then, increase would be merited. It is a difficult jump to make. So if you have other conditions that may be less of an uphill battle for you and would still get you to that, to the top of the mountain, at the end of the day, it would depend on the specifics of your claim. So I would say definitely get with a coach, because they'll be able to kind of look at that and look at the whole picture to give you a better answer.
Yeah. So in Jim's case, it probably won't take that much, but again, going back to the strategy, or even just connecting with a coach, might really help you get over that hump, and really connect with somebody and have a very personal conversation to really assess the situation and to discuss the path forward. So in your case, if you're really stuck and you're needing that personal advice, and you need that support in formulating the game plan, and just somebody who could look at the overall big picture for you, assessing the situation, it might be in your best interest to get signed up and connect with a coach to move forward. But yeah, when it comes to mental health and the 70% rating for mental health, that is the higher rating percentage of that average on the rating scale. So 50 to 70% for mental health is the most common rating percentage. So sometimes it is very difficult to get to that next level up, the 100% for mental health. However, it is possible. Again, going back to the 38 CFR, as Mark had brought up previously, to really take a look at what merits the criteria for 100% on mental health. And again, you don't have to have all those symptoms for the 100%. So just a heads up.
So Robert Gilbert asks, do we stand a good chance on getting a better rating when filing for the second time on our initial time frame claim? Hopefully I'm understanding this question the right way, but so it all comes down to evidence. At the end of the day, you know, between the evidence that you have as well as being prepared, you know, I wouldn't say necessarily the first or the second time would differ as far as the exam itself, but being better prepared, understanding your symptoms, how to explain your symptoms, knowing the CFR, knowing, you know, you being proactive. I tell my veterans all the time, the more proactive, the more engaged, you know, the more into it that you are, the better the results are going to be. You know, educate yourself. That's what this company is all about, educating veterans and letting them know how this process works, the best ways that the process works. So I would say the second time around, now that you've found VACI, you know, dive deep into the resources that VACI can give or that you can utilize to better prepare yourself for that second time that you're filing. Because now you're going into it with a little bit more knowledge. You're going into it with, you know, a little bit more evidence, a little bit more prepared. You know what to expect, maybe if it's, you know, an exam that you've already done. So hopefully that answers your question.
Hey, before we roll into this scenario, I just want to also elaborate to or respond to the last scenario as well. And so the way I see it when it comes to the VA disability process, and based on my experience and what I've seen, and this is year 6 for me working full time with our veteran community. I'm a former VA mental health counselor. I did that for 5 years before coming over to VA Claims Insider. And so there's what you turn in for evidence for a claim. There's what you present. There's the C&P exam. And then we have an admin person with the Veteran Benefits Administration reviewing the case and going to assign, say yay or nay, and assign a percentage to it. All right. And so they're not even they never get the chance to meet the veteran. They're just reviewing the case. They're looking at the notes, and they got a large workload. They're looking at the evidence and applying the rule of law to it, how they interpret it. Now, if they're going to approve a claim, they have to justify it. So it's a lot easier for them to deny a claim and move things on. So therefore, sometimes veterans get just lost in the shuffle. The better your case is can help them make a solid decision and a favorable decision on your behalf and move forward. However, if the evidence presented isn't necessarily like all that solid and the C&P exam didn't go all that well, and therefore, you know, that's going to increase your likelihood of not getting the results that you want. And so there's a number of variables in the process. Sometimes it's best to try not to even predict the outcomes. We know what we get when we do not try. We will get the same. We will miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. So of course, dusting yourself off, coming back around, filing for that again, doing a supplemental or an HLR to respond is always going to be the best. It will always increase your odds of getting the rating that you want and you deserve. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. All right. So Jared Manning just chiming in. Here's a scenario. Let's say I have 3 claims that I got rated for. Example 70, 50, 10. So 70, 50, 10. Puts your raw score at 87 and your compensation at 90%. Then later I go back to add 3 more claims. Let's say 40, 30, 10, which is 68. Do they add these scores, or do they cut the 68 in half and then add 40, Jeez. And I can never spell it right.
You gotta sound it out. Just gotta sound it out.
Yeah, on Facebook, radiculopathy. Hopefully I got it right. All right, so that was a 30, and then we need the 10. All right, well, we're already at 100 without the 10. That puts our raw score at the 95, which would put your raw score at 96 if that was in that scenario. Do you want to specify, Adam? I don't know if you understand the question a little bit better than I do, as far as do they cut the 68 in half and then add it?
Gotcha. So a lot of times when I'm describing the VA math, I kind of pause up to a certain point because it does get complicated. It does get complicated. I've had it shown to me in the past where somebody wrote out like from the beginning to the very end, and it's like a full page of fractions, literally. Um, and so it gets complicated up to a certain point, and so if you're not really like well versed in the math and gonna write the whole thing out, that's where the calculator really comes into play and brings a lot of value. Um, it really helps put things in context when we're looking at maybe like a few disabilities to describe like, hey, this is the why, this is the reason why they do the math the way that they do. But then up to a certain point, it's like, hey, let's just pull out the calculator at this point, and because this will just totally simplify things for me going forward, and then so therefore, will again also help with the strategy and help help understand like what's worth going after. So Jared, hopefully we've helped respond to you. Mark played with the math, and it looked like you didn't need all those other things to even hit the 100%. You just needed some of those. So hopefully that helps you. Hopefully you're able to see how that scenario could potentially go, get the numbers that you can potentially get, and get the rating that you deserve.
Yeah. So another thing too that we haven't quite touched on, and not to get too deep into the woods with it, but another consideration is the bilateral factor, right? If you've got a condition in your left leg and your right leg as well, as you can see, the calculator takes that into account whenever it's adding towards your overall rating. So the math is super tricky. We do this for a living, and we still use the calculator. So point of the Facebook Live is go to vaclaimsinsider.com, find the top right, go to the calculator, and you can just start plugging and chugging those numbers and find out exactly what your raw score is, if you have a bilateral factor, what your compensation should be, your dependents, the whole 9 yards. The calculator has it all.
So we have another question. Hello, this calculator does it take into account multiple 0% ratings? Let's say you have five 0% ratings that doesn't equate to 10%. So in that case, no. So you actually need a rating percentage above zero, something that's maybe 10, 20, 30, in that range to contribute to the VA math. So if your situation is zero, there's nowhere to go besides up on those situations. It is still a rating. At least they say that it is service connected. You can still do potential secondaries. You can still ask for an increase. Of course, when it comes to increases, you should present additional information, so additional evidence to justify the increase. But there's nowhere to go besides up on those, and they are less likely to give pushback because it is rated already. They do admit that it's service connected. That part is done. That eliminates the research part on the VA disability side. They don't have to sift out and do the homework and research of whether this was something that's service related. They already know that. You have nothing to lose really on a 0% for an increase in those situations. There's nowhere to go besides up.
Yeah. I know a lot of vets get frustrated, and nobody, of course, wants to get a 0% rating, but that's half the battle, and that's the hard part of the battle. So I'll take a 0% any day of the week, because you can always go up from there, like Coach Adam said, whether it's through an increase or even better now, a secondary connection to where you can get something else connected that beforehand wouldn't have been service connected. And that little 0% just turned into a 70 or a 50 or whatever the case may be. You can branch off of it and secondaries to secondaries. So it really just opens the map, the playing field, if you will, to start hacking away at those things that, you know, are bothering you.
Okay, Robert, why is there a difference between 100 and 100% PNT? Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. So, PNT is a little bit more of a protective status. Okay. I usually tell my veterans this: focus on getting to 100% first, then worry about the PNT part, because the VA might automatically give that, and they give the PNT status when they feel there's a very low likelihood of the condition improving. So, give them the protective status to reduce the likelihood of a reevaluation type of situation there. So, yeah.
Yep. And so there's other factors too. Age plays a part. You know, if you're over the age of 55, more than likely, you know, chances are you get that PNT status. Even if you don't have the PNT status and you're only at 100%, once you hit that 100%, you guys can get a PNT request letter, submit the PNT request letter, and then, you know, hopefully get granted that PNT status and no longer have to worry about it. We can help with that as well.
Right. We can make the referrals for an assessment for our folks who are at 100 that maybe don't have the PNT status and are seeking that PNT status. They can get the referral for the assessment for that PNT status.
Yeah, there's criteria, there's requirements, but yeah, that's why it's important to get with the coach, guys, see what we can do if you guys need help or you're stuck.
Okay, another situation. 30% left knee, 10% right knee, 10%. You got it, Mark? All right, here we go. 30% left knee, 10% right knee, 10% L1 fracture, 0% right arm.
We'll just do right foot. No, I don't think it'll take the bilateral factor if I do right foot. All right, 10%.
It's a good question.
Guys.
We're getting that scenario up there so we can all see the situation.
I think I got it all. 30, 10, 10, and 0. See, it's not picking up though. It is not picking up, but Kiki McDonald, I will take your name down and I will make sure that I send you an email with that answer or a message. I was going to like to save the name, but it just disappeared. We'll get it later. We'll get you taken care of. We'll get you an answer. Any other questions, guys?
Ooh, TBI. So, is traumatic brain injury a mental disability or a physical one? So, in order to keep, this has been my experience, in order to keep those type mental health and TBI separate, a lot of times what I found that it is helpful to be rated for mental health first and then go TBI. But when they're put up together, sometimes they get grouped together. I've seen that situation. So therefore you cannot, when they get grouped together, it'll reduce your ability to have them as separate ratings. And so sometimes they'll put them under the same umbrella. They'll say, okay, well, TBI does exacerbate mental health symptoms, right? And so they'll just add, contribute it to the mental health disability rating. And so therefore it just makes it a little challenging. So I encourage folks that, if they're considering, TBI or mental health, like I would definitely go mental health first and then go TBI. So at least you get rated for mental health and have those points on the board first. Therefore, if you put them up together, they could just lump them together and then maybe take away your chances of having two separate ratings for those conditions. So
yeah, have to differentiate symptoms. I did
yeah.
an intent to file in December of 2020. Put a claim in on March. Did another claim in June. They did not backdate it, so December. They said my claim, and Hart took that file away, and it was only good for one claim. If my incorrect. Yeah, your intent to file, once you submit a claim with an intent to file, you have to do it. You put in a new one. Because once that claim or once that intent to file is sent off, then it's begun the process. So yes, once that you do that intent to file or once you submit your claim, then after that comes back or in the process, you can either call or online, you can create a new intent to file.
Excellent. Excellent question. All right. Colton said, what's the rating for a low back injury with 2 herniated discs with leg pain in both legs? That sounds like more than one question, actually. Well, for VA disability purposes, it is probably more than one question. So here's a common situation. Veteran is rated for low back condition. This happens a lot. A lot of times for the physical medical stuff, when they're approved, I see low percentages, typically like 10% is a very common rating for the physical medical stuff. But it's better to get the points on the board for the injury before you go after the secondary. So when you say leg pain, now I'm hearing secondary. So, in the case like that, radiculopathy might be a good situation if you're getting the like sciatica, sharpshooting pains, numbness, tingling in the legs related to the service connected back injury. Now, keep in mind that back injury needs to be rated first before you can do the secondaries. You're right. Could you have pain related to an injury and are they related to each other? Absolutely. But for VA disability purposes, you want to have points on the board first for that injury before you start going after other things that are related to it. So I hope that gives you some clarification and gives our audience some clarification on, certain situations with back injuries and the value that it can bring to go after other things.
Yeah, not to go too off topic here, but also going off script, we also have a blog where you can just type in low back pain, VA disability, and it'll pull up, and we have all kinds of articles and good information where to answer your question on what is the rating for low back pain depends on what you got going on. What's your range of motion? What kind of pain are you in? This kind of gives you a breakdown to where you can take a look and dive a little bit deeper into understanding where you should fall under, right? So it gives you the degrees based on that goniometer, which is a tool that the examiners should use to measure how far you can twist this way, twist that way, bend forward, bend backward. They do make you do all kinds of moves there to measure it all, but you can get a better idea or at least a close enough idea to where you can look at the rating based on the symptoms or based on the measurements and then go back to that calculator and plug and chug it in.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes just going after secondaries is just better because maybe the secondary might bring more value than the primary injury, possibly.
Yeah, that low back pain, right? Kevin, we'll get to you in a second, I promise. That low back pain, right? 10%. That's what I started out when I started my journey. to where even though it was what was causing me the most grief and what was really giving me the most issues, that 10%, now when you look at the rating schedule for radiculopathy, well, radiculopathy, not only do you have that bilateral factor, but there's no pyramiding. So you can be rated at 20% for your left leg and then 20% for your right leg. So now you've got a 20%, a 20%, and a 10%, all from that, all coming from that 10% service connected injury that you had or that you thought is a low rating. So that's why secondaries are so powerful.
Right.
All right. Question. I placed a few claims almost 2 months ago and I have not received a phone call. Anything I need to be doing? Man, my philosophy, one, the VA has slowed down a little bit. They've addressed it. They're looking to hire all kinds of raters and representatives, but I am proactive with my claims. I annoy them. I drive them nuts. I call that 1-800 number. Hey, I know I called you guys yesterday, but I'm just looking to get a status update. Can you guys tell me what's going on with my claim? Where's it at? Sometimes they'll read you the script and call it a day. Sometimes you'll get a good one or a better one, and they'll kind of sit with you and explain, okay, this is what we're waiting for. This is when we should, be looking to receive it. So just call them, be proactive with it. Obviously there is a backlog and things have slowed down, but if it's been 2 months and it hasn't had any movement, you can definitely use that resource. And even, if more time passes, even the White House hotline, that's a resource that veterans have as well to call to help get things moving along if things are stuck for a bit.
So everyone, when Mark is saying the 800 number, he's saying 800-827-1000. 800-827-1000. So that is the customer service line for the Veteran Benefits Administration. They're open 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Also, this will be really helpful. When you call this 800 number, you get about 2 minutes of blah, 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 blah. Please don't hit zero. Just don't hit zero, because guess what's going to happen? It's going to take you back into the loop and you get the recording again. You get very, very frustrated. So wait for the 1.5 to 2 minutes to go by with the recording. It'll say to select options using numbers, press 9. And then 1 for status of a claim, press 1. Then you key in your info. Right. Then you key in your info, date of birth, branch of service, social, stuff like that. Then it will tell you your estimated wait time to speak to a live representative. Then you can present your situation, present your scenario, and ask your questions. Say, hey, I did this at this time. I'm a little bit confused. What do you guys see on your end? Because that is the source. They'll be able to pull up everything that they have, the phase that it's in, everything. They should be able to give you feedback on that. I like the 800 number more so than I like the online statuses. And the reason why is because the online statuses are vague. When the details matter with VA disability claims, you can get more feedback and details with the 800 number than you can online. They'll say, you can go check an online status of your pending disability. You say, pending. Well, pending what? Pending an important form, pending something that we sent you in the mail, pending, it could be a bunch of situations, and it could be pending something really important that could have been time sensitive. Therefore, this 800 number would have been able to say that, hey, we sent you this. Did you get it? And were you able to send it back to us? So there's a lot more value that you can get by talking to the live person more so than the online stuff. I would say it's easy to drive yourself nuts by, maybe obsessing about the 800 number or calling it every day. Set good boundaries for yourself. You can set a good measure for yourself. Be like, hey, when I submit a claim, I'm going to call a week later and just follow up on it. And once
your benefits 15 times a day.
Like, there you go. Right. And so, when you submit a claim, follow up a week later, make sure everything's good to go. They got everything that they need. And then call every 2 weeks after that. Just put it on your calendar. Just get in the habit of doing that. Ensure that you're managing your claim. All right. Because I've seen a lot of veterans fall through the cracks. And they thought that somebody was looking after them, somebody was watching their back, and they weren't really well informed on how to manage their claim. And they always thought that somebody else was doing it for them or looking out for their interest. And unfortunately, the veteran will lose when they're not looking out for their own claim and taking ownership of their claim. So very sad stuff. All right, Jared Manning. A little off topic. Initially rated at 30% for hypertensive heart disease, claimed as heart condition, hypertension. Later decreased to 10%. Still scratching my head on that one. Anyhow, now I'm on 2 types of meds as when I was at 30%. I wasn't on any. That said, do I need a nexus letter to file for an increase?
So nexus letter will help with service connection or proving service connection. If you're already rated, even at 0%, then you don't need a nexus letter. The nexus has been established. You've been granted that service connection. So you would not need a nexus letter to file for an increase.
Treatment does speak to the severity of a condition. So I recommend whenever you're working on a claim, whenever you're challenging a claim, whatever your situation is, you should always be in treatment for that condition. You don't want to have to scramble for evidence. And also, therefore, and sometimes you might just need, off topic, sometimes folks just need the evidence to establish at least a baseline or some sort of evidence to have a leg to stand on for a VA disability. But really, you just need you want to have extra stuff to turn in when you're trying to get an increase. So staying proactive in treatment for an increase will be helpful. It will help the situation and give you help with the justification for an increase on that. So when somebody's rated for a service-connected disability, it's not hard to get another C&P exam because again, they don't have to do the research of whether something's service-connected or not. And so things tend to move very much more quickly when something is rated too. That's another thing. When you're just going for increases, typically those type of claims go faster, more so than something that's not service connected. And that's a new claim situation. So good question though.
Less
Good question
for them to do, yeah.
All right, Brian, 20% right shoulder.
I kept the calculator up. All right, right shoulder.
20% left shoulder. Again, 20% left shoulder. Got 20% on the left shoulder, probably 2 different conditions though. Okay. And 70% for mental health, 50% for migraines, and 10% for tinnitus.
We're going to change your left shoulder to your left arm. And then
So in Brian's situation, that's where stuff gets a little tricky.
All right, my man, you are at 93%. So you are right there. You can see how that VA math, now that you're at 93%, we just got to get you up to that 95, and then you will be a part of that Hundo Club.
Well, Mark, we're almost up to an hour here. We're at. Should we start wrapping things up pretty soon?
Yep, I say so, man. Aaron Dolak will ask this last question here. I have a 90% disability rating, and I have a supplemental claim, VA form 20-0995, for mental disability that I submitted on October 7th because I received 0% and not service connected. My true percentage is 87%. Do you recommend waiting for the claim process through to put in new claims as I wait for the supplemental claim? I really want 100%, so waiting for this supplemental claim to process is killing me. I did call the hotline and they told me to call back late November because the status, and then it cut us off there. And man, I know it sucks. Trust me, we coaches, most of us, a lot of us are veterans as well. I've got a higher level review right now that I've waited over 6 months for. So, that's part of the process to where the best advice I would say is get everything that's next ready to go. That way, as soon as that claim comes back, you're good to send it off and have everything already, all your ducks in a row to help make it as fast as possible, at least on your end. It is a waiting game. We do got to put in the time and let it play out. So, yeah, just have
Yes.
everything ready to go as far as for the next claim once that supplemental claim does come back.
Yeah. And so, again, just like Mark was saying, sometimes it's better to just assess the situation, let things play out, let them come back so that way you understand what is going to be the best way to respond, what's going to be the next move, what's going to be the next course of action. And also, for those of you who may have other questions and other concerns, we also have posted in our chat here. You'll see the VAClaimsinsider.com/elite membership as well. So we hope that we have brought value to you today. We hope this was very informative. We know that the VA math is very challenging, and sometimes just getting over the hump is very difficult. But we all want what's best for you, and we want to help everyone get their needs met. And so, on that note, I thank everyone for their sacrifice. To my fellow veterans, thank you all for your sacrifice, and to the families who support our veterans each and every day. Thank you all for your sacrifice, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. Take care.